Welcome to Charter Local Edition. I'm Tracy Young. Our guest is the director of the University Art Museum at Cal State Long Beach, Chris Scoates. But today he joins us to talk about a new book that he authored entitled Bulletproof, I Wish I Was. Nice to have you back with us, Chris.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about the University Art Museum, because you're a little bit different. You don't just have beautiful paintings or pictures on the wall. You kind of expand out and have some different kinds of art that you display.
Well, we're very interested in new media, music, film, animation, TV, and gaming. As you know, we do the 5D conference every year. And a year and a half ago, we worked with Brian Eno on a show called 77 Million Paintings.
Remind people, if they are not aficionados of that, how important he is to the music industry.
Well, Brian's a producer, musician, and visual artist, and has worked with such great bands as Roxy Music and U2.
Just little bands.
Yeah, small bands, super bands. And we're currently actually working with two other musicians that people may be interested in. One is Paul Oakenfold, the British DJ, who's going to work with the University Orchestra. And a year from now, we're doing a project with Lou Reed, a sound project. So more about that later, potentially.
Right,
but yeah, exactly.
So because you do a lot, even though you're a museum, you do a lot with music, so that's coming together. And you recently authored this book entitled Bulletproof, I Wish I Was. What's the premise of it?
Well, it's a book on the lighting and stage design of Andy Watson. Andy Watson works primarily with the band Radiohead. In fact, he's worked with them since 1993. He was actually hired in 1993 by a band called the Frank and Walters, which was
I said, who was that?
They're an Irish band who I don't think are no longer around, but the warm-up act was a band from Oxford called Radiohead. There were like 100 people at this gig apparently, and the band, Tom York and Andy, hit it off, and Andy's worked with them ever since. And so the book really documents every tour that Radiohead has done with Andy, or Andy's done with Radiohead, and Andy's also worked with Oasis, Arctic Monkeys, and Zazie and Raphael and Vanessa Paradis, so a number of bands.
And they're known for, obviously they're very musically talented, but on top of that they put on an amazing lighting design. I mean, that's part of why people like to see them rather than just purchase their albums. They want to see them perform live.
Right, and when I went to see them at the Hollywood Bowl 2.5 years ago for the In Rainbows tour, which is where I met Andy for the first time, I was very struck by the LED forest that Andy had designed for this particular show. And it's the first 100% LED set, but it's also the first 100% carbon neutral set. And it draws about 1/5 of the power for any rock show, unlike other bands that obviously draw a lot more energy. The set actually goes into 5 trucks as opposed to over 120 trucks, like the U2 show, the 360 tour.
Yeah, which obviously those are fabulous tours, but it takes a lot of people, and it does take a lot of energy to put those shows on. Exactly
right. And so the book really documents, it deals a lot with the carbon neutral sort of concept that Andy worked with, but it also goes back and looks at Andy's work within relationship to visual art too, in film. And it goes back to the 1920s. I go back to the 1920s to the Swiss designer Adolphe Appia, who was the first lighting designer of the time.
I like to show people. I hope it shows up on TV really well. But it's interesting because it's bulletproof, I wish I was, and it has, I don't know how it's going to show up on TV, but there's holes through that. What's the idea behind that?
Well, I've worked with 2 incredible designers who live in Minneapolis. One is the design director at the Walker Art Center, Andrew Blauvelt, and I've worked with Andrew actually for about 20 years now. And the book really, the cover, the concept was really to reference the idea of light and light passing through these holes as apertures, but also Bulletproof, I Wish I Was the title of a Radiohead song, and it references the holes going through the cover. So there's a reference to light, the title. It's a beautifully designed book.
It's great. I hope it shows up on TV well. We're also putting a display up of it. But great book, and congratulations to you, because I think you spent a couple of years putting this together.
About 2.5 years, yeah.
So you can purchase this book at the University Art Museum, and you can also purchase it on Amazon, I guess, starting then in April, right?
And we should also mention, too, that Tom York wrote the foreword for the book, which is the first thing he's ever endorsed.
All right. For Charter Local Edition, I'm Tracy Young.